Hi, my name is Allison Van, and I'm the Executive Director at SPARC, a Center for Social Research Innovation within the Faculty of Social Sciences at McMaster University. So SPARC exists as a center that focuses on research methodology across the social sciences and the fact that research methodology is constantly changing. And so we are always looking for what it is that might be tripping researchers up. Within SPARC, we have a number of businesses that help to generate revenues that fund the free activities of the center. And so one of those is called Brighter SPARC Applied Research. And what we do is we work with government, sometimes companies, a lot of not-for-profits to do applied research or evaluation about their projects and the kinds of questions that they want to answer. And through that work, we began to really think about research data management. And so began to explore a lot of what's coming up around that and realizing that if it was a challenge for our team, it was going to be a challenge across teams. And so Data Champions largely came out of this recognition of how challenging it can be to integrate research data management in some kinds of project contexts.
We were talking about kind of everything we saw and the just huge number of researchers in social science that weren't touching our at all. And I sort of opened it up to the team and said, well, what do we do about this? You know, we're supposed to be helpful. How can we be helpful? And Moyo said, you know, if you want people to do something, you have to pay them.
Yeah.
Economists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that is totally fair.
We're discussing like what to really do about the problem of reproducibility in social sciences and how, you know, it's very hard to reproduce or replicate a paper. And we were trying to brainstorm and figure out what exactly can be done and how this can, like how we can have processes that can help replicate papers. And as an economist, the thing that came to mind was incentives, right? Like if you give people incentives to do something, they would do something. And so the idea just came to me, like, how about we just pay researchers to do their research, right? Pay researchers to record themselves doing research.
Researchers are really limited on time. And so you have to make it sort of doable for them to be able to do this. And so bringing on the RAs. And then from there, once we had that idea, it became really quick to, we also know that there's not particularly fun or interesting material out there around RDL.
Yes.
Sorry to say. So, you know, let's build something that's fun.
Yeah.
Let's build something that's interesting. And so the two ideas came together and that became Data Champions.
We all should be champions. I mean, we should all have something on our door saying, I'm a champion, right? And we should all be data champions, honestly. And I think we do engage with data. Like I said, the language of data seems a bit technical sometimes to some people. Maybe some humanities, for instance, right? But like we all engage with data, even if we don't call it data.
I always thought about research management when I'm doing like my own personal research, but I never really thought that it was a thing in itself. Like people were studying research data management and trying to like improve processes. I just thought it was something that you just get used to as you go by, forgetting that you could actually pick terrible practices as you're becoming a researcher.
You can skate by not doing these things, but I understand how crucial it is to do them, and I wanted to make sure that I learned how to, so that I wouldn't run into any, issues with regards to file storage or sharing data.
There's always those sections on grant applications asking about your data management protocols, and there's like trainings at the school and such. And so we were always doing data management according to ethics, like McMaster Research and Ethics Boards. And so just that combination of knowing there was so much available at the school, and then it was also really becoming important in SSHRC documents, we both thought, like, we probably need to do a little more. Like, we probably need to get a little bit better at this.
And I think right now, being in having access to McMaster and having access to resources and, professional training, is something that you don't necessarily have access to once you leave.
She was like, oh, data. I think we both thought, oh, it's about data. That's quant-based. And then she was like, oh, would you like to do this? And she was like, oh, I know some people at Spark. And I was kind of like, yeah, sure, sign me up. Not really knowing what we were getting into. I kind of saw the video thing, didn't really think it would be that involved. I was like, sure, you put me in, Marissa. I'll go to bat for you.
When my prof told me that I will be going to collect the data, and this would have been like my second time of doing field work. But then I was like, okay, me going to Ghana to join a PI, a collaborator to collect the data. This is a big project. Okay, how am I going to manage this data? How am I going to ensure that there are not going to be some kind of ethical issues? There are not going to be some kind of data security issues. Like, I was at a point frightened, but like when I got that email that, okay, our project has been selected by Spark for Data Champion, I said, okay, well, prayer answered.
One of the things that we encounter a lot in our consultations and our training sessions is that graduate students and postdocs, because they're in the early phases of their research careers, they are still really at a place where they can change their practices really easily. And that makes research data management training at that point really valuable and really impactful, because they're in this place where we can talk to them. They're doing research, so they see the relevance of these things, but they're still at a place where they don't have this huge buildup of materials behind them that they would have to potentially change. They're not kind of set into a strict research pathway. They're still learning and exploring how they want to do things. So it's easier for them to change their practices.
At this level, we're all trying to learn, and we're kind of like sponges. We're just soaking up anything that we can to make a research process easier for us. So we're trying to learn. So this is a good place for us to be learning about research data management, because then we go on to become independent researchers. We get to implement, hopefully, all of these things as we go along. And we also imbibe and we put this into like the next generation of researchers, right? So this is definitely a good place to start, like with grad students, doctoral researchers who are just trying to learn the ropes of how proper research is done. Because it's one thing to know what research is done, but proper research, and then just document things as we go and really understanding the process.
I think it's actually really smart to focus on training research assistants and research data management, because PIs are so overwhelmed with guiding the entire project that it helps to have someone who's perhaps more junior, more eager to learn new practices, be the point person to take up the issue of research data management. I think it also has the added benefit of helping these junior scholars develop better practices for their own research and their own projects before they even are really getting started on them. So I think it has kind of a double benefit. It benefits the PI, it benefits the current project, but it also helps invest in the junior scholar and make their own work better going forward.
And I think they also have innovative ways of developing these habits, so we also can learn, right, based on what they know. Because okay, this seems to have worked in 2001 but it doesn't work anymore in 2024. Now what can we do, right? And they have different innovations that are going to advance notions of data management and practices of data management. So I think this is the generation to engage with when it comes to data.
I think sometimes in research teams we see this around methodology, where an RA will know how to do something that a PI doesn't. And depending on the PI, depending on the RA and their relationship and their skill in discussing these things together, it can be a wonderful experience for the PI and a real opportunity to begin to explore something that they couldn't have explored otherwise. And I think it's the same thing with research data management. we know that RDM is going to spread much more widely among graduate students and new scholars than it is amongst more senior scholars. And so the opportunity is for those who are early in their careers to become experts in this and to really take a lead and support things that we are quite confident that colleagues who are senior scholars will be very excited about what you have to introduce them to.
This series is brought to you by SPARC, a Center for Social Research Innovation.